get down. I'm not playing a class. I'm not scared around you. You can't keep that on me. Happy and free. Radical positivity. Say what you believe in. Try fighting uphill with me. But the dangers of conformity. A lot of us with no action. Destroy this corporate thing. A lot of us with no action. Destroy this corporate thing.
How's it going? Special guest Andy. I had to move the whole room around this evening. It's been a hugely busy day. I apologize for my disorganized appearance. There's Dot behind me. Oh my gosh, yay. Now she can be behind me in the shot. I love it. Can you see my glasses there, babe? Thank you. I was like, Andy, I forgot my glasses. They're all the way behind me. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Very disorganized this evening, running a little bit late. There's not a whole lot of news going on today either, which is really kind of frustrating, but there are some stories. There's plenty to talk about, so we're just going to chat, see what's up, see what's going on in the world. So today I set my induction date, which is super exciting. Whether I make it till then, hopefully I do. I'm sure I will, because I haven't had any of the symptoms of labor up till now, and I'm already in week 30. I'm in week 36, I think. Can't remember, 35 or 36, but I'm getting up there. And usually at this point, at least some women have Braxton Hicks or some other kind of ridiculous discomfort like that. I got none of that. I'm super comfortable. Baby seems super happy in there. My hair is crazy. Forgive me. So that's good. I would prefer not to force it, so I pushed it out a little bit. It was going to be on like the 4th or 5th, and I was like, please, can we hold off just until the 10th? And so the expected due date is 10/10/23, which I think is actually pretty cool. I like that kind of repetition. I think that's neat. Let me pop out your comments over here. That's something I forgot to do too. Crazy evening. You have to forgive me. But we did deep clean the whole house. Got the room moved around a little bit. Now my light needs work. I know that, but we're going to make it work for tonight. I'm not worried about that at all. So tonight we're going to talk about blue cities spiraling. I feel like there's a lot of repetition tonight, which is kind of annoying, but there's some news as well, and we'll kind of get into it. Hello, Lori. Hello, Martin. Hello, Whisper. Appreciate all you guys. Jared says Ken Paxton has been making the rounds to independent outlets since the end of his impeachment trial. Right. So that was just a couple days ago, and I saw already that he was on Tucker Carlson. I haven't had a chance to watch that, but that was awesome. I appreciate that for sure. We need Tucker's voice now more than ever, for sure. Let's see here. This is crazy stuff. I really want to talk about Texas since you brought up Ken Paxton. And this isn't something that Ken's doing exactly per se. This is something that Governor Abbott was doing. They are basically at war with the Biden administration at this point, and I am so here for it. Very excited about it. New York is actually taking a turn for the right, the far right, I've been told. Because she doesn't think that more migrants need to go to New York City. And honestly, I completely understand where she's coming from. But I guess that makes her a radical right-wing extremist if everything we believe is, everything we've been told is to be believed. But we'll see. It should be week 36. You know what? Now I'm not sure. I'm going to check. Nope, not yet week 36. Yeah, week 36 is next week, so I'm still technically in week 35, but closing in on it. My due date was technically 10/23, so yep, we're just going to see what happens. Who knows? Going to try to do everything I can to make sure that labor progresses as naturally as humanly possible, but you know, whatever happens, happens. I'm not worried about it at all. I just want to start with this meme image from Not the Bee. Proposed border wall, and this which goes along the top of Mexico, and this is the ideal border wall, which actually also includes California. Now, I have to admit, it kind of bugs me when people include all of California when they talk about how terrible California is. All of California is not terrible. Chunks of California are truly awful, and they influence a lot, almost all of California's politics, and that's fair. However, Northern California, Orange County, there are actually a lot of conservatives in California. You just don't hear much from them because the people who get the attention and the people who pull the strings are those ridiculously left-leaning politicos there in LA and San Francisco, San Diego, etc. Scott says getting mugged turns people conservative, especially when that mugger is reality. Indeed. Very true. I do not think that California needs to be excluded with a border wall, but I have constantly said I think that the San Andreas fault line should do what we're paying it to do and break California off into the ocean, but I don't want to be uncharitable to the people who aren't flaming liberals in California. Jared says, Lydia, when you pop, are you going to be taking a long maternity break from doing live streams? I don't know how long I will be gone. I do know that I won't have a brain for the first few months because I also won't be sleeping, which is just one of the side effects of having a new baby. And I'm excited to tackle that challenge. I'm sure I will be good at it. I don't love not having enough sleep. That's hard for me for sure, but I'm sure that I will grow into it and I will adjust to whatever needs to be done because that's just what parents do. All right, let's read about how Kathy Hochul has become a right-wing radical. And here we have an awesome ad from PublicSq HERE at the top of the page on Not the Bee, whom we love. Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul goes full right-wing extremist. We're at our limit. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. My. Oh, good. There's Dip also making his appearance on camera. They just love this new setup. Actually came in shortly after I moved the whole room around and Dot hadn't seen it yet. So she was wandering around the house. She went back to our room and she was just barking like crazy. And I was like, what the heck is she barking at? There's nothing in there. She can't like look out the window and bark at the people passing by. She can't see out the window. Right? So I went in and I was like, where on earth is she? She was under the bed, looking out around the bed, barking like she was terrified. And I coaxed her to come out and I was like, what on earth are you barking about? She seemed terrified by the fact that everything was different. So I don't know if she thought it wasn't the same place. She's very simple, okay? We aren't going to use the R word on YouTube, but she's a special little lady. And today she had a magnet in her mouth and I was like, she is on her way to committing suicide and there's nothing I can do to stop it because I had no idea where that magnet came from. And she'd gotten hold of it anyway. And if you get 2 magnets, if a dog swallows 2 magnets, it can definitely kill them because it messes with their intestines. So I'm just going to have to keep a really close eye on her and the baby. I'm going to have to try to keep them together and make sure that they're not getting into anything. Make sure they're not eating any magnets or batteries or other stuff that's terrible for them. Thank you, Dip, for not knocking the candle over. But anyway, I digress. I just wanted to share that story because that's Dot for us. Anyway, what a xenophobic racist. Democrat Governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, to immigrants, we're at our limit. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. Remember when years ago Trump was called a super racist with the side of Hitler for saying basically the same things? I do. Yeah, Pepperidge Farm remembers. Here we are. They're going to cite their sources. It's awesome. Xenophobe in chief. Democrats blast Trump's plan to suspend immigration to the U.S. April 21st, 2020. But a lot of people are sounding like Orange Man bad these days. Residents are now begging local politicians to close the borders of Chicago to stop illegals coming from Texas. 96% of this neighborhood voted for Biden, and we're going to talk more about immigration battles, specifically in Texas. So that, I think, will be our next story. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I have too many tabs open, not enough space. All right, so we're going to talk about Joe Manchin. We're going to talk about that Virginia Democrat, because that apparently is not popular to sell your pictures on the internet. Let me see if I can find that one about Texas, because he's been tweeting. Governor Abbott has been tweeting up a storm when it comes to let me see if I can find it. I don't even remember his first name. Greg. There we go. Greg, the most forgettable first name on earth. No, this isn't Governor Abbott. Does it have a blue check? Thanks, I hate it. Yeah, it's not right. I don't like when people do that. Greg Babbitt. There we go. There we go. That looks more like him. Good stuff. Personal Twitter feed. Okay. Yeah, Greg Abbott says we are refusing to let them in and sending them back. Because, this person's saying, happening now, a group of migrants in Venezuela that can't get through the razor wire on the U.S. side tells another group attempting to cross to go back and to cross in another area because they're trapped where they're standing. Good! Good. I'm glad. This is exactly how it's supposed to work. And I'm sorry that you're being faced with razor wire, but maybe you shouldn't be entering the U.S. illegally. And I really don't care if that sounds harsh. If a country doesn't have borders, it's not a country. I'm sorry. These crossings have been happening nonstop all morning. CBP is transporting them quickly to help keep the number of people waiting under the bridge down. Let's see what people think about this. In other words, the razor wire is working. Yes. Where's the border czar? That would be Kamala Harris. That is a great question. Somebody says release the alligators. I don't think that's fair or kind. I don't think alligators are necessary. But at the same time, this is the border of the United States. You don't get to come in willy-nilly. You need to follow the rules to get across the border. Like, this is not complicated. Pretty straightforward. He says Texas will continue to install more razor wire and fortify the border against illegal crossings. We will not back down. Yeah, so this is in response to the Biden administration sending officials down to the border to remove the barrier that Texas had in place. And I think I mentioned this yesterday, but they actually took down Arizona's border. They went to court over it, and they went to court with Texas, and I think they just informed Arizona that they would have to take down their border as well. And I'm curious if Arizona has a similar reaction to Texas here. The Texas National Guard and Department of Public Safety are repelling illegal immigrants at the border. Good. I officially declared an invasion at our border because of Biden's policies. We deployed the Texas National Guard, DPS, and local law enforcement. We are building a border wall, razor wire, and marine barriers. We are also repelling migrants. Dear President Biden, the U.S. Constitution won ratification by promising the states in Article 4 that the federal government shall protect each of them against invasion. By refusing to enforce the immigration laws enacted by Congress, including 8 U.S.C. something letters, criminals' prohibition against aliens entering the United States between authorized ports of entry, your administration has made clear that it will not honor that guarantee. What would you call that? When the president of a country is refusing to uphold or abide by the laws of that country. Absolutely nuts to me. The federal government's failure has forced me to invoke Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution, thereby enabling the state of Texas to protect its own territory against invasion by the Mexican drug cartels. Your inaction has led to catastrophic consequences. Under your watch, America is suffering the highest volume of illegal immigration in the history of our country. This past year, more than 2 million immigrants tried to enter the country illegally, coming from more than 100 countries across the globe. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to be done with that. Across the globe. Worse yet, your failed border policies recently prompted a United Nations agency to declare that the border between the United States and Mexico is the deadliest land crossing in the world. Yes, illegal immigration is bad for everyone. Everyone. except the cartels. I suppose they benefit. Texans are paying the price for your failure. That's right. And the Democrats and Joe Biden specifically do not care about Texas. They don't care about Arizona. Texas and Arizona tend to vote kind of conservative. And I don't think that the Biden administration views conservatives as human beings, because if they did, they might actually take steps to help protect their lives and their livelihoods. But they won't. Ranches are being ripped apart. Homes are vulnerable to intrusion. Our border communities are regularly disrupted by human traffickers and bailouts. Deadly fentanyl is crossing the porous border to such a degree that it is now the leading cause of death for citizens between the ages of 18 and 45. By opening our border to this record-breaking level of illegal immigration, you and your administration are in violation of Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. Your sustained dereliction of duty compels Texas to invoke the powers reserved in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which represents an acknowledgement to the state's sovereign interest to protecting their borders. Good. Arizona versus United States. Using that authority, Texas will escalate our efforts to repel and turn back any immigrant who seeks to enter our state at a border crossing that Congress has designated as illegal, to return to the border those who do cross illegally, and to arrest criminals who violate Texas state law. Texas installed razor wire in Eagle Pass to stop illegal crossings. Today, the Biden administration cut that wire, opening the floodgates to illegal immigrants. I immediately deployed more Texas National Guard to repel illegal crossings and install more razor wire. This is unbelievable to me. This is the Biden administration. This is the president's power at war with an American state. And I want to know what makes them think that this is okay. I legitimately do. I want someone who's a lawyer to explain this to me, because this seems utterly insane to think for a minute that these guys think that they're in the right. Now, we know at the end of the day, these guys are just ordinary men, just doing what they're told to do, just like cops everywhere, just like government officials everywhere. They're just, the orders came down the line. I just followed them. It's not a big deal. But I kind of have to think that if you are going to the Texan border and tearing out razor wire right at the border, you have to know exactly what the hell you're doing. But these guys are doing it everywhere, because why not? Why not? Who's going to stop them? They're never going to get in trouble. They don't care. The president's telling them to do it. Literally illegal immigrants walking right past them. These are Biden administration officials doing this, and they're literally allowing illegal immigrants to walk past them. And I can't imagine anything more symbolic of exactly what the Biden administration has done. Guys, we need to win in 2024. We need a candidate who can crush it. And we're going to look at some of the swing state polling on this. It is not encouraging. Right now, polling is saying that if Trump is indicted, Biden will win by at least 6 points. Who knows? It's early. I don't trust the polling this early. I almost never trust the polling anyway. But I have to say that Trump is leaning on the polling to prevent him from having to debate with his other Republican competitors. So I don't know if we're going to trust polls or not, but the Trump fans seem to be wanting to. The Biden administration views them as future Democrat voters. Yes, that's been the case for sure. Hobbs would order her state police and guard her to bring people in. Cartels pay well. Not sure who Hobbs is that you're referring to. Oh, Katie Hobbs. Right. Of course. My bad. Frankly, I see the Biden admin and Dem politicians more likely to tattoo serial numbers on conservative arms and prep for something worse than ever help any conservative citizens. Yes, I get the impression of that too. Tell us it's not deliberate now, Lib, says Lori. Yeah, they don't care. They don't care that we know that. They don't care that we can see that. They don't care what we think. We're not people, right? We don't vote for them, therefore we don't matter. And that's an interesting position to be in. Like, I find that a little bit surprising. As cynical as I always have been, I always was relatively optimistic that we were fellow countrymen, and we could get along and we could kind of figure some of this stuff out. But it's starting to not feel like we can. We'll have to see. Texas should have a border like Israel and Palestine or South Korea and shoot to kill with landmines. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I personally think that we should take a page out of Israel's book and come up with some form of an Iron Dome that is targeted at illegal migrants. Now, the Iron Dome is specifically designed for missiles, obviously, if you're familiar with the Iron Dome. If you guys aren't familiar with the Iron Dome, you should check it out because it's actually truly amazing. It's really, really inspiring to see for sure. All right, you guys, let's move on to our own thing. Our next thing, my bad. Yeah, so anyway, New York is full of bigots, which who knew? We had no idea. Biden administration cut the razor wire. Governor Greg Abbott put along the Rio Grande. Really glad that Abbott responded like he did. I have to say, I really wish that Greg Abbott had been stronger about this stuff from the beginning. I really don't think this would have gotten this bad if Greg Abbott had had a spine of steel earlier on. Now, he didn't, so it is what it is. We deal with the way things are, not with the way we wish things were. But at the end of the day, maybe this will be a lesson to him. Who knows? Who knows? All right, you guys, let's look at some instances of racial disruption and see what we can come up with and see what we come away with, because this stuff's really troubling. I don't like it, and I see it getting worse as long as we have racial grifters like Ibram X. Kendi out there spreading lies and crazy stuff. So, this is from Joel Abbott, also from Not the Bee. A jury refuses to convict a black perpetrator who robbed an Asian jeweler and bashed his face in on video. A judge declares a mistrial. The media narratives about skin color have really done their work, haven't they? So this is from Andy No, whom we know and appreciate. Update: a mistrial has been declared in the trial of Calvin Ushery because jurors could not reach a verdict. Why not? The suspect's attorney told the jury that the September 2022 video of the brutal beating of an elderly Asian man provokes a lot of emotion, but told them not to direct that against his client. What do you guys think? If you're feeling some kind of emotion based on an actual video recording of someone who's in jail, who's in front of you because they apparently committed this crime in cold blood against another minority person, and they tell you not to direct that emotion against their client, do you think that you should listen to what they say? Or should you allow your emotion to inform your logic, because your emotion is clearly coming from somewhere? How should you interrogate this? What level of importance should you give the emotion that watching a video of this man commit this actual crime play in your logic? Let's read on. I don't really want to watch the video. I'm not going to make you guys do so either. It says, warning, graphic violence. Here's a video of Calvin pistol whipping the elderly Korean American jewelry shop owner on September 15th, 2022. So just a little over 1 year exactly. The 68-year-old jewelry shop owner was pistol whipped and hit in the head with a hammer on 9/15. Son Steve told me he wants to spread awareness because I'm thinking about my family's safety and the safety of Korean business owners. Yes, hashtag stop AAPI hate. No one is taking this seriously. Insane. Calvin Ushery was on trial for various charges, including robbery and assault. Prosecutors say he violently attacked the owner of Solid Gold Jewelers on September 15th. Yeah, it's because he did, with irrefutable proof. This was an Epstein cell. The guy is on camera bashing an Asian man's brains out. Ushery stole around $100,000 in jewelry during the robbery as well. Surveillance video shows 68-year-old Chang Su being stomped on and hit in the head at least a dozen times, twice with a hammer. Su was so badly beaten, he is still undergoing rehabilitation. Again, to emphasize, this has been over a year now. A year later, he's still recovering. Think about that. Think about how brutal and savage this attack was. After 2 days of deliberations, a mistrial has been declared. Prosecutors plan to retry the case. Why do you think the jury wouldn't convict Ushery? What do you think that says about the systemic problem with our justice system in America? What do you think it means for victims like Chang Su? Wake up, America. That's an ominous ending. But yeah, I think he's right. Jared says, I'm honestly surprised we're not seeing a lot more vigilante justice considering these past couple years alone. Yeah, Yep. Well, if you want vigilante justice, Koreans are the right place to start. If you guys recall the rooftop Koreans from the LA riots. But I don't know if we're in a position. I don't think that we have the moral fiber that those people had. That was back in the 90s. Different kind of person back then. People who really, really cared about following the American dream and finding it for themselves. And I feel like people don't take that seriously anymore. I think that was what motivated those people to get up on the rooftops and defend their own property. And hats off to them, because that's a very important thing to be willing to do. You have to be brave enough to do that, and you have to actually sometimes do it, scary as it may be. I wanted to touch on this story as well, because the story is horrifying. I don't think I mentioned this one. I was talking to Andy about it, but it was really, really interesting. What happened here? It's just changed. That's not right. There we go. I accidentally clicked something. I think sometimes I scroll to the right or the left, and because it's Opera, it takes me to a different page, which is so helpful. Thank you, Opera. I appreciate that. Mother of teenager, 17, who, quote, intentionally rammed into retired police chief Andreas Probst while he cycled down the road, breaks her silence as he and his friends are charged as adults. These boys have been charged for the death of Andreas Probst. Ayala's mother has said that she does not know if her son can be forgiven for his crimes. The mother of a teenager who is accused of intentionally ramming into and killing a retired police chief with his car while his friend laughed has broken her silence. Jesus Ayala and Jazimir Keys, 16, have been charged after being accused of intentionally striking this man while he was riding his bicycle down an empty highway in the northwest of the city at about 6 a.m. on August 15th. Ayala's mother has said that she does not know if her son, who was 17 at the time, can be forgiven for his alleged crimes after police announced the juveniles will be charged as adults. She told 8 News Now, "I don't know why he did this. I don't know if God can forgive this." Both Ayala and Keys will be in Las Vegas Justice Court today. Yeah. I don't know if that's forgivable myself, honestly. I'm not God. I don't have endless patience, all this other stuff. Ayala, the accused driver of the 2016 Hyundai Elantra, had a lengthy record with the juvenile system. He was arrested the same day as the hit and has been hit with 18 different charges from murder to conspiracy burglary. Meanwhile, Keys, who was detained this week following a police appeal for information, is believed to be the passenger who goaded the attack and filmed the video. It took cops 5 weeks to arrest him. It is believed he was wearing a face mask at the time of the collision. His mother told the news outlet via text, "My son's side of the story will be told the truth, not the inaccuracies the media will try to portray." I'm not sure what she's talking about there. If he was sitting in the passenger seat when this man was struck by this vehicle, he is heard clearly on recording saying, "Get him, there he is, let's go." So I'm pretty sure that makes him guilty as sin. The duo were transferred to the Clark County Detention Center on Wednesday, and they will face charges of murder with a deadly weapon, battery, and attempted murder in Las Vegas Justice Court. Keys, the accused passenger, was in the child welfare system at the age of 8 after his mother was charged with 5 counts of child abuse in 2016. Oh, okay. Police say they also tied the teens to at least 3 hit-and-run incidents the same day. So this was apparently just what they were doing. They were running around hitting people with their car and not expecting any kind of justice. And that's disgusting. That's truly sickening. They believe the slaying of Probst, who retired from his position as a police chief in Bell, California in 2009, ended the spree. I don't know if you guys have seen this video. It is shocking. I really don't like it. And I'm not going to play it for you guys, but it's just 2 guys who are in a car. And they come up behind this guy on a bike and they just hit him with a car. Absolute insanity. Laughter and comments from inside the car are heard before Probst, wearing a red shirt and dark shorts, was struck and thrown against the windshield. Ayala can be heard in the clip asking Keys if he's ready. Keys then says, "Yeah, hit him." A final image from the moving car shows the retired top cop on the ground beside the curb. Probst's heartbroken daughter said at a police press conference that she believes her father's reckless death was caused by the decaying of family values in society. Well, she's right about that. Her conclusion, though, is wrong. She says it was a random act of violence. and urged people to not politicize his death to create, quote, cultural wars. I understand there's trepidation about putting yourself in the crosshairs of like a race mob, but you need to think carefully about what you say, because if you're going to say something like this is indicative of problems with our family culture, like the fabric of society, then you need to be aware that people are already going to jump on that. There's no way to stay out of the line of fire. And following it up by saying, don't politicize it. This is just a random act of violence. Don't use this in the culture wars. I don't know. I don't believe it. And I'm really curious what the motivation was for this. Maybe it was just an older guy. I'd be curious who the other 3 victims were, if they were people or if they just were like hitting cars or whatever. At a news conference on Tuesday, Taylor Propst described her father, known by loved ones as Andy, as a man of honor and integrity who worked for more than 35 years in law enforcement. We're devastated by the senseless murder of Andy, she said. His life was robbed by 2 individuals who did not believe that lives of others matter. Propst urged the DA's office to take these crimes to the furthest extent of the law. Yeah, well, that's fair, at least, for sure. And I'm a little bit surprised that the mother of one of these kids had that to say about her son, because I think she's right. It's too bad that this happened in the first place. I'm willing to bet that there was no father in the picture, and I think that the police chief's daughter was 100% correct when she criticized the decaying of the fabric of society, because something is so clearly wrong with this. This is awfuling. Sounds like mom raised herself a sociopath. Yeah, it's possible that he got way out of hand, way out of control as he got into his teens, as some kids do. I know it's sometimes the case. Parents think they're doing the best they can, especially if dad's not in the picture. Mom's just doing the best she can, but without a male role model, man, it is tough. It is tough to keep boys on the straight and narrow, but who knows? All right, you guys, I want to circle back just for a second to New York and Kathy Hochul, since we were mentioning her earlier. This is funny to me. Disgraced ex-New York Governor Andrew Cuomo urges Kathy Hochul to sue Biden for migrant fiasco. Wow. Good for him. Ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo urged New York Governor Kathy Hochul to sue President Biden to recover the billions of dollars absorbed while grappling with migrant fiasco. The emperor has no clothes, Cuomo said of Biden in the latest episode of his As a Matter of Fact podcast. Cuomo repeatedly said the federal government headed by Biden is responsible for immigration and border enforcement, not New York City or the Empire State. The state should sue the federal government for the entire fiasco, he said. He likened a Biden and fellow Democrat handling of the migrant crisis to the army marching off the cliff one after the other. It makes no sense. Cuomo, who resigned as governor in 2021 amid sexual misconduct accusations that he denies, that is not why he should be disgraced. He should be disgraced because he sent a whole bunch of old people to their deaths in New York nursing homes. And for what? We'll never know. He knew that these people were severely at risk of COVID. And sometimes once they had caught it, he sent these people into nursing homes so that old people could catch it and end up dying, which is absolutely horrible, completely shameless. He was never held to account for it. He was actually ultimately removed because sexual accusations came out against him. Whatever. That's not what he should be remembered for. I want you guys to remember him as the governor who sent all those old people to nursing homes to die. In fact, you can better remember him as the guy that President Trump was recently pumping up as having handled COVID, quote, better than Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida. Yeah, so that's just going to stay with me for a really long time. I'm so fascinated by whatever Dip is doing in the window behind me. He's enjoying the view. He always likes it when we mix things up. See, he doesn't bark at things that are invisible and scary when we mix things up. He always wants to know what's going on. He's very curious. Now, Dot's less curious than she is afraid, but she likes to be here behind me, apparently. That's probably where she's going to be hanging out in future videos. However many more I have. Let's see how many we're going to have. So if we only do weekdays, we have tomorrow, Monday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. maybe. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. As many as 12, but could be less than that too. We're going to have to see what happens. But either way, once the baby's here, I'm out. You're not going to see me for a while. I'll be keeping the child alive and trying to get myself back in shape. I have an infusion for my MS medicine to try to keep me from relapsing in the midst of a hormone crash. So that's going to be fun and exciting too. But speaking of the collapse of these blue states and cities, Nike says it's game over in Portland. Sportswear giant permanently shuts down its longtime factory store after a spate of thefts. Yeah, I'm shocked. You know what's really funny to me about these companies fleeing these cities? That you know, right? You 100% know that these companies are staffed entirely by people who vote for and donate to nothing but Democrats. But then when these Democrat policies come full circle, they run screaming for more conservative states and cities. And then when they get there, they continue to vote for Democrats and to contribute to Democrats. Now, I saw, but I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to find it if I try to pull it up. I saw some of the divisions of political contributions from the employees of different companies. There are 2 companies that are conservative. And one of those, not really a company, it's an organization, is U.S. Marines, right? That's literally part of the U.S. government. But they included it anyway because they're some of the, in fact, let me see if I can find that because now I'm so curious. Democrats run, let's see. Can't pull this up quickly enough. That's too bad. It's really interesting. I really wanted to see because it's broken down by the percentage of people who contribute to different political parties. And I found it fascinating because there are nothing but blue companies, right? Blue companies, blue journalists, blue university, blue everything. And it's just, yeah, we're going to have to figure out another way to fight the culture wars because I don't think Republicans are going to see massive political victories at high levels, probably for a few generations, which I don't like at all. It means we're going to have awful economic downturns. It's going to be so hard for everyone. The American dream is going to be utterly revised. And it's going to take a lot of coming to terms with it. I don't like that at all. But as long as I can keep my family alive, we're just going to go through those hard times with our heads down and see if we can come up with something positive. Like, like you do, like our great-grandparents did, like our grandparents did. I was talking to Andy about it, and I was telling him that my grandmother survived the tail end of the Depression. Like, she remembered that. And he was like, oh, wow, really? I was like, yeah, which is funny because I think his grandma was actually older than mine was. She just recently died. My grandma was born in 1924, 6. She was born one of those years in the 20s. Yeah, and then they survived the Great Depression. I am sure that whatever is coming down the pike for us tomorrow, we will be able to survive, but it's going to turn us into much stronger people than we can imagine, and it's going to make us better. And that's what I have to tell myself, but I do truly believe it. I'm not just telling myself that. Whatever is coming is going to make us better, and whether we win in 2024 or not, I don't think we will. It's going to turn us into stronger versions of ourselves, and it's going to make our kids stronger too. And there's just no other way around that. It would be nice to have some wins. It would be nice to win in 2024. Don't see it happening. And even if it does, looking at the ostensible winner, the Republican winner for 2024, I don't see conservatism on the ballot. I don't see it. Because I'm assuming that Trump's going to get the nomination. He's not a conservative. And I am. So there's not going to be any representation for me in the government for years. And who knows? Could be better for me. Could be good for my mentality and my pride and all this other stuff, but it's not going to be good for the economy. It's not going to be good for our country. It's not going to be good for our border. It's not going to be good for the stuff that I really care about, like being pro-life. But I digress. We'll see what happens. Nike deserves what it gets. They are getting what they voted for, and they're getting it good and hard, and I have zero sympathy for them at all. In much a similar vein, Lizzo is actually facing another spate of accusations against her, which is really, really just fun and interesting. Lizzo named in another lawsuit for racial and sexual harassment by tour employee, but the singer's rep claims the accuser never actually met or even spoke to the star. The hitmaker is being sued by a woman who claims to have been forced to hear racist, fatphobic comments from Lizzo's team members. She alleges that black women were called dumb, useless, and fat, and I can't tell you how hilarious I find this. She also alleges she was not allowed to dress in sexy clothing, as the star would get jealous. Oh my god. I can't. When people who become famous just because they have managed to ascend the victimhood hierarchy ladder get in trouble by those very same standards, it is a good day in my book. I find that freaking hilarious. That is the funniest thing in the world. It could not be happening to nicer people. Oh, what's this? Interesting. So I'm happy to hear it. Ooh, breaking news. Smoke seen rising from Idaho National Lab, which tests advanced nuclear energy. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say I think this is probably just like a fire that started in one of the rooms. Social media footage showed smoke coming from the ground near Idaho National Lab, which tests nuclear energy products. Interesting. The cause of the smoke is not yet known, but reporters from East Idaho News were on the scene. The INL nuclear facilities are located in the remote and sparsely populated desert about 45 miles west of Idaho Falls near the town of Arco. In 1949, the site was established as a national reactor testing station. Before the INL was established, the site was the Arco Naval Proving Ground in use during World War II. Gun barrels from battleships like the USS Missouri were reconditioned at the Naval Ordnance Plant in Pocatello, 80 miles away, and then taken by train to the Naval Proving Ground. The guns would be test-fired and scored before being sent back to the Pacific Theater. Oh, is this the smoke we're looking at? Yeah, look at that. That's really interesting. Huh. What do you guys think it is? I have no idea. I just know that the powers that be do not want nuclear to be safe because it is an effective, efficient, safe, green form of energy, and it's not the form that they want. That wouldn't surprise me. Texas Ranger says, my grandparents met each other in World War II and survived. Absolutely. My grandparents lived from 1928 to 1953 without a Republican president. Yep, so it goes. Dionysius says it could reverse 10 or 20 years. Blue cities could be on the rise. America has weird dynamics with cities. Blue cities haven't died would be my basic point. We'll see what happens. Texas Ranger says, hang in there, Lydia. My grandparents lived through the Depression, but also the 50s and Reagan's 1980s. Suffering will pass. It's not suffering per se. I'm just concerned about the future. I want things to be good for my kids, but I'm reminded that boomers also wanted things to be good for millennials, and sure enough, they were, and it has made us very weak people. So it seems to me that the default state of human existence is a form of suffering, and the sooner you recognize that, the better, because it is what it is. We're always going to be suffering to some degree or another. That's not the end of the world. Anyway, I hope that we're not about to have a nuclear explosion in Idaho, Ohio, wherever this is. I don't remember exactly where it is. Idaho. Yeah. Okay. So that is over by Montana. Oh, it's beautiful over there. Yeah. Okay. So it's a little more remote than Ohio. So that's good at least. Very curious what's happening with that. Very glad that Lizzo is being met with these accusations that are entirely identity based, given that she was so heavily identity focused for so long. Well, I feel like we kind of have to touch on this, even though I don't think it's important. A top Democrat is ripping the new dress code for hoodie-loving John Fetterman. Chuck Schumer's deputy says we need to have, quote, standards. Majority Whip Richard Durbin said he would talk to Schumer about it. He said the Senate needs to act after the change. Senator Joe Manchin is circulating a resolution to go back to the old rules, and good for them. And the way I see it, some people think that they're being edgy by saying that we don't need a dress code in the Senate. Nonsense. You are representing this country to the rest of the world, and trust me when I say the rest of the world is already laughing at us. They don't need other reasons to do so. We need to reduce the number of reasons that people are laughing at us, not give them more opportunities, but here we are. I can't stand edginess for the sake of edginess. Don't be edgy for no reason. Either have a reason for holding your views and be honest about what you're saying, or don't say it at all. Don't just say it to be ornery and contentious. Don't just say it to go against the grain and be a rebel. That's boring. We're not 15-year-olds. We do need a dress code, actually, it turns out. And we do need to represent our country seriously and with dignity. And we have already lost too much of that. We should not be selling more of it upstream. But I digress. I thought that was great. I'm very happy to see Democrats even pushing back against this. I think this is so important. Not something that we can give up easily. And I'm glad that even Democrats care about this too. So I feel like this could be a bipartisan issue that we all unite around. All right, you guys, I thought this was super interesting. And I have just one more from also just the news. And then I'm going to be done because I am beat. Most voters say the Virginia Democrat who live streamed adult acts for tips should drop out of the race, according to a poll. Neither the Virginia Democratic Party nor the House Democratic Caucus has publicly demanded for Gibson to end her campaign. However, some people on the Democratic side there in Virginia have walked back their endorsements of Susanna Gibson. In fact, last I checked, you were not able to see the endorsements tab on her campaign page. So she just took it out altogether since people were retrieving their approval of her. Most likely voters say that Susanna Gibson, the Virginia Democrat who live streamed adult acts with her husband online while asking for tips, should drop out of the House of Delegates race in a highly competitive suburban Richmond district, according to a new survey. That's right. This is very competitive district. She should have thought about that. While 50% likely general election voters say Gibson, a nurse practitioner and mother of 2 children, should drop out of the race, just 30% say she should continue, and 14% say they're unsure, according to a survey released Wednesday by Founders Insight and Coefficient. Additionally, women were notably more likely than men at 60% to 51% to say she should drop out of the race after the Washington Post published a scathing expose about her last week. Yeah. Women especially don't like it when you try to take advantage of their husband's drives to make your political point. That is just really shady, and I don't like it. Gibson is running against Republican David Owen, a retired home builder who raised significantly less money than her for the race, according to the nonprofit Virginia Public Access Project. Neither the Virginia Democratic Party nor the House Democratic Party has publicly demanded for her to end her campaign ahead of the November 7th election, but they have said the salacious story is a distraction from the race, according to the Associated Press. Yeah, the survey was conducted September 14th through 18th with 854 likely general election voters, and it has a 3.35% margin of error. I appreciate those little details about polling. Speaking of polling, this is not good. Former Trump advisor Monica Crowley says swing states are up in the air in terms of going to Biden. She says a major factor in this is particularly the auto workers strike that recently launched in Detroit, Michigan. Very interesting note. Former Trump advisor Monica Crowley says swing states such as Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan are up in the air in terms of going to Biden. Any of the states that are in the industrial Rust Belt and have tended toward Democrat or voted for Joe Biden last time are all up in the air now. She said that a major factor in this is that auto workers strike that recently began in Detroit, Michigan. The United Auto Workers Union last week launched targeted strikes at 3 factories belonging to the Detroit 3 automakers, marking the first time the union conducted strikes at each of these companies simultaneously. I think most people understand what this strike is all about, that Biden is putting the screws to the big 3 automakers on EVs, and it's going to be a lot of auto workers out of work because the cost to build an EV is about 40% less than to build a combustion engine. So this push toward EVs is going to put a lot of people out of work. Ford President and CEO Jim Farley suggested earlier this month that if the strike at his company couldn't pay workers what they wanted because of the cost to electric vehicle transition. Interesting. Crowley went on to say that Biden's presidential brand is falling over the situation. Biden's whole political brand since the time he came on the political scene was, I am an average guy from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I am in the brotherhood with unions. Well, he's really put the screws to the average worker in this country. Well, we'll see. It sounds to me like he's going to lose these states, right? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Trump's indictment. We'll see if he is convicted or whatever comes next. And we will see how the people feel about Trump as opposed to Biden in these states. Now, Trump just recently came out and said that he was going to really crack down on illegal immigration going into 2024, leading everyone who has any memory of the last 3 years to say, wait, didn't he promise to do that the first time? Former President Trump says if reelected, he would immediately invoke a federal law granting himself the unilateral power to detain and deport non-citizens in the United States who are older than 14 years old. Yes, he did that. He said that before. He said it twice. And then he did absolutely none of it. And the argument is Trump is the only one who can stop the left. He's a fighter. And then the parallel argument alongside that is the only reason he didn't get his agenda passed is because the left stopped him. And also, this time will be different. I don't believe it. I do not believe it. And he is not pro-life. I'm not a fan. I just can't. And people give me a hard time for that. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I haven't changed. He has. And I wish that he hadn't. I wish that he doubled down on actually being conservative. But here we are. All right, you guys, I'm going to let you go. It's 7:50. I hope you've enjoyed seeing Dot here sleeping behind me like the adorable little pencil mark she is. Hi, Dot. She's out cold. She's so cute when she sleeps. She likes to sleep on my leg. It's so adorable. And I hope you enjoyed Dip's momentary appearances here as well. This is our new setup, so you'll be able to see a lot more of them going forward. All right, you guys, have a good night. Stay safe, stay well, as we say over here, stay out of Target. Until next time, bye guys. How's it going?